Hello, everybody. I just want to begin the video by saying I was right. I was right. So I actually made a video earlier this year about South Africa's visit to the USA to try and create better context and debunk the Afrikaner genocide to US President Donald Trump. And in that video, I said that it doesn't matter. Donald Trump has already made up his mind about South Africa, and South Africa sending a delegation, South Africa's president going to try and convince Donald Trump, it's just basically making South Africa look pathetic. And honestly, Donald Trump has already made up his mind. This is seen, for example, in the USA refusing to come to the G20, for instance. On top of that, being punished by having these massive tariffs by the USA, and so many other ways of trying to create hostility and tension between South Africa and the USA. And it becomes apparent, right, that Donald Trump never ever cared about trying to strengthen relationships with South Africa. And on top of that, he already made up his mind. When South Africa went to the USA, it was just basically a theater performance. Just dance for me, guys. Dance for me, you South Africans. Let me make a show of you. Like how we did with the president of Ukraine, for instance.
Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No. You've done a lot of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning.
It was never, ever meaningful. And it just sort of shows like there's a deeper agenda that was here at play. Even if South Africa went or didn't go, it didn't matter. It never mattered. And that's the cruel and painful part about this, that many South Africans began to feel paranoid and anxious about our neighbors and feeling a lot of resentment when there was no need for resentment. So you can see in that video, I said it then, and I'm saying it now, it never ever mattered. Donald Trump has already had his mind made up about the situation in South Africa. And the bigger question is why? What is there to benefit from a country that is further destabilized and has unnecessary racial tensions? Why is it that US President Donald Trump refuses to set foot in South Africa? This would actually be an amazing opportunity to show the international community how and where this genocide is happening against Afrikaner people. And on top of that, is the USA kind of making themselves redundant? Especially when you consider how they've been very hostile to the international community, such as through tariffs, antagonizing actions, and as such, countries and also bodies such as the EU, China, and etc. have basically decided to turn to each other and basically leave the USA out of these interactions because of how unreliable the US has been.
我们奉劝美方收起霸凌的嘴脸，趁早回到对话合作的正确轨道上来。我要重申，中国人民从来不怕邪，不信鬼，从来不吃霸道霸凌那一套。施压、胁迫和威胁，不是同中方打交道的正确方式。
So the G20 is an opportunity where countries get to come together and try to find solutions to the world's global problems. And through that, this is an amazing opportunity. This is the world's greatest economies basically coming together to try and address and set the tone for how we'd want to change our world. However, US Donald Trump is refusing because of a hoax that he presented during the South Africa meeting. In that meeting, he even presented a video of Congo to try and prove this Afrikaner genocide. Do you know where the Congo is? And do you know where South Africa is? Geographically, it is really difficult to confuse the two countries, but he did it anyway. In international law and international relations, there's this concept of the responsibility to protect. And this is also really critical, especially when you consider how, for example, in the 1990s, there was the Rwandan genocide, and also what happened in Yugoslavia, the genocide there. Simply what happened was that the international community just sat by and they watched the mass slaughter of people. And through that is where the responsibility to protect came from. Because governments, you would hope, would protect their people. But when they don't, the international community has a duty to come in and intervene. They can do investigations, they can use force, and so many other mechanisms. And that is where the UN Security Council comes in. The USA, of course, is a member of the UN Security Council, but they're choosing to not come to the G20. They could easily take the South African president and other G20 members to where this genocide is happening, but they're choosing not to. On top of that, you have 4 other members of the UN Security Council, permanent members, such as China, France, Russia, and the UK that are coming to South Africa. Why are they coming? Why are they not hesitant? And more so, does this also point to maybe how President Donald Trump's claims are lies? They've been debunked. It's not true. Instead of facing this, US President Donald Trump is choosing to hide and not have to account, and basically choosing to isolate themselves from having to face the consequences of what they've caused within South Africa, which is basically further racial instability and further racial tensions because of these lies, and that coming to South Africa would tear that apart. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section about that aspect. But let's take it a bit further than that. Throughout the first year of Donald Trump's administration, one can see that this man has been extremely protectionist, isolationist, and has just essentially bullied the international community to try and bend to the will of US President Donald Trump.
I think there is only one country in the world which really is bullying around among many countries in the world. For example, launching this the world tariff war, which is the wrong war to launch. And then it tries to impose itself on top of other countries as if whatever it dictates should be the real truth. This is not the rule of law that most of us really wants to live in.
And it hasn't been effective. It's honestly been hurting the US economy, creating a lot of uncertainty there, and also overall destabilizing the entire global system that exists at large, and many countries having to try and find alternatives. As this also a means of trying to not have to face the music of his actions, or not trying to face the music of the consequences of these policies. What the global environment has learned, especially now with the G20, the USA is opting to skip it, is that the USA is not a reliable country. The USA is not an ally that you can reliably turn to, and potentially even their supremacy within the world, that is international relations and politics, is changing. They're no longer supreme as they once were. And through that, people can see that the USA is hot and it's cold, and that it's better to rather be independent and reliant and try to find meaningful partners to ally with. And that is through that, massive channels such as China have come up to occupy this space. Massive bodies and blocs are opting to work with each other directly instead of using the USA as a conduit in the same way that they would before. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section. I have to interject here. There has been an update to the entire situation. So the USA will actually be sending a representative to the G20. And I just sort of consider this, like what I mentioned here at the end, that the world is changing. Even at this G20 summit, the entire initiative was trying to prioritize emerging economies being sustainable, equitable. And now Donald Trump, he saw that delegitimizing the entire G20, it was never going to work. It wasn't going to work. It wasn't sustainable. Like, what did his lobby groups pay him for? What did his representatives basically put him there for? To basically further the US capital, further US investment. And by opting to delegitimize the G20, it was never going to work. Basically, the show goes on, the world keeps spinning, and the USA can either choose to participate or not. And I just sort of raises questions about whether or not the USA's supremacy is waning, and can they sustain their position in the global world, especially now where everybody just looked at them when they opted to leave and not participate in the G20. Can they continue to dictate terms in the global stage? Do you agree that Donald Trump is embarrassed to have to come to South Africa and face the fact that he lied about the Afrikaner genocide? Or do you also think that he's maybe fearing or nervous about having to face the consequences of how he has contributed to the world's economic problems, especially as that is what the G20 aims to try and resolve? Again, this is the other side. You can land on one side or the other. Just share your views in the comment section and just be respectful. We can always disagree here. I'll see you next time. Bye.